No randoms.
Welcome back to the No Randoms podcast on the Comic-Con Radio Network. It's a very exciting day. We have, for the first time in a little bit, first time in a while, we got a studio guest with us, right? We figure we're in new form. We're feeling fresh, so we're going to dig in and keep the content moving. You know what I mean? So we'd like to give a big No Randoms welcome to Jarel Bell. What's up, my boy?
How we doing? Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. We got Jarel, we got Anton, we got Shad, 4 mics on the pod, but excited to do a little interview access here. So like we were saying, I know you pretty well. We work together on a daily basis really now.
Yep.
I talk to you all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but you're fresh for the guys. And so that was fun, Anton. I seen you doing a little bit of research there and going back to the back. So I got to see, I don't even know, maybe teenage Jarel, seen some YouTube
Maybe.
channels,
Okay.
helping to get some subscribers, So I figure we'll take it back, maybe introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, what you're about, and then we'll get into what you're playing these days. And boyos, feel free to jump in wherever. It's all new to you.
For sure. Well, again, thanks for having me. I'm from Washington. I've been within the gaming space since I can remember, starting out with FPSs, Call of Duty, Battlefield, the usual. It wasn't until like 13, 14 where like I first started seeing like competitive gaming, like the MLG series, like the Dota 2, Halo, Call of Duty events like in Columbus and whatnot. And I was like, you know what? I play video games every day. I can be those people. Like they're the same age as me. Like I play the same games as them. Let me try it. So for like the next 5 years, I was like really into trying to be a professional Call of Duty player. But obviously it did not work out at all. I was not as good as I thought I was. But then I started seeing people run around with cameras and stuff like that. And I loved making YouTube videos, as you guys apparently have seen, streaming. So I started saying, hey, I can mesh my two passions together, video games and, content creation. And this is, how I got to where I am today.
Man, you got some throwbacks in there too. Admittedly, you're further into the esports space than we are. We talk about that a lot. Like this is not an esports podcast. It's like truly like general gaming. We're all in our 30s now. I'm like a whole 31, but we see like the memes of like played some 30-year-old after his long day at work. We fully embrace that. We're like, yeah, that's us. So if you could take it easy, we're not sweats, but still we embrace the joke there. So Sounds like you go back a little bit, and so excited to get into some of that stuff. I don't know how much you guys know about MLG or Dota. I think I went to like the last MLG event ever.
Not really, but no, I was gonna say I'm a little jealous, man, because I was too scared to always make that leap.
No, I didn't care. I did not care at all.
I feel like that's one of those things where it's like you see like the worst NBA player, and you're like, man, I bust his ass, and then you go play against him, and you're like, damn, nigga's better than I thought.
Exactly. I'm like, these kids are like skipping school to play Call of Duty for a weekend. Like, why can't I do that?
Right.
You guys remember the Bobcats? The Charlotte Bobcats?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's this guy that went to my high school that was literally the last player on the bench at the Bobcats. So the worst player on the worst team. And he came back one day. We had just won the league and everything. We thought we were it. Oh my, this white dude came back. He didn't miss a single shot. Not a single bucket. He started playing left-handed. You stirred up some memories there because that shit is a fact, bro. You think you're it, then you go play like, oh, you can ball. Facts. Okay, well, again, before we get back into the super far back, there's one place we always start every week, which helps keep us kind of fresh and get us warmed up. What are you playing right now?
Right now, I recently just got back into playing Valorant, Call of Duty. I stay away from Warzone because I play way too fast. Like I'm playing pub, so I just die the second I drop in. And a little bit of 2K. I've been getting back into just playing 2K, the online, playing against other people. And like the My Court too. My Court's a lot of fun.
Fam, the guy's just been teaching me I just bit the bullet and went ahead and let them walk me through my build and get through the whole. I have been off since maybe 2K20.
Same. I haven't played in 3-4 years. Yeah.
It is so different. I got it. He was like, yeah, go ahead and ride over to the mall real quick. And I was like, the mall? We just talked about this on the last pod, but it is a way different game.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw, but there was for I think 3 months, I think they might have shut it down, but you could work inside 2K, like the park, like the Foot Lockers, the the shoe stores. You could be an employee for a day or something like that. It was crazy.
Oh my god.
I think I saw something about that. Anton, you ever run up on any real employees in there that get their sales going?
Only my boy Jake from State Farm.
Oh gosh.
Fair enough.
Honestly, you should get paid for that service, y'all. They had to tell me where to get my
Right.
tattoos right. You know what I mean? How to put my shoes on. I
It's a
ended
whole
up in the rec
ecosystem in
in
there,
2K shoes. Damn, I got the
That's a
2Ks.
real metaverse for real.
for real.
When I talk about that in the business setting, that's the still I say this is it. This is the best example of the metaverse of what a walled world looks like
Hmm.
with a culture, right? It truly encapsulates a whole culture, which I think is special. I see you digging around in my notes. Um, right, but I figure let's take us back to the beginning, at least of your career, right? So you kind of told us about your inspirations. One thing that might help quickly, if you don't mind, how old are you?
I just turned 25 in October.
See the young buck. I was thinking that when Anton was like, I was kind of, I thought about that, but honestly, it was a little bit different if you think about how much gaming changed. 5 years is pretty
Hmm.
significant. Even 5, 6, 7 years, Anton,
Yeah,
it's
7.
pretty significant in terms of the gaming and specifically professional gaming. So
Hmm.
even then,
Yeah.
the landscape probably looked a little bit different. I mean, I wonder how old were you when Instagram came out?
Honestly, I can't remember. Probably still high
See that?
school.
Oh, I wasn't cut,
Yeah.
man. I remember that shit. That's crazy. We didn't have Instagram until I was like into college,
Yeah, I
Hmm.
which
was
is nuts.
22, I think, when Instagram came
Right?
out.
Yeah,
We
I
were
think I
we
was
were
like
hot on
16 or
Facebook.
something.
I remember
Yeah.
being in my dorm room, like tweeting like Facebook statuses, like trying to be clever for the girl, like tweeting Drake lyrics, trying to be clever and stuff. Now I look back like, oh man. And then also there's a whole era of Snapchat where I just lost memories. There's like a 2.5, 3 year period of
Hmm.
just photos I don't have on my phone because everything was on Snapchat, and then now I don't use it.
Yeah, bro. I had Snapchat with the original Four Locos, so how do you think I feel?
Oh, that's terrible.
Oh, it's probably for the best. Yeah, well, we used to go to raves, and we had the real Four Loco. That shit was. We had Four Locos, the real one, my freshman year of college. So we were turning it up.
Those are weapons.
Right.
Absolutely weapons, 100%. No one should have that. But yeah. So go ahead and tell us how you got started in at least the gaming industry, and then correct me if I'm wrong. You had a little bit of a non-traditional path, right? You were talking about the prodigy. You were moving pretty quick.
Hmm.
You went from high school and you got your degree at the same time. I think you
Hmm.
said so. You were moving pretty fast, right?
Yeah, so like it's funny because I tell everyone this story and like they don't expect this to be the reason at all why I wanted to just be done with school so fast. First of all, like a lot of people, I hated school terribly. So like the sole reason why I did the whole like accelerated program, like going to college and high school at the same time, was just because I wanted to be done with school as fast as possible to get back to playing video games. But yeah, so in Washington, there's this program where you can go to college your sophomore year of high school, and you can take college credits and high school classes at the same time. And I saw that as an opportunity to be done with school at least as much as I want it to be by 18, so I can focus that window of the 2 to 4 years people would traditionally go to college to focus on like being a professional Call of Duty player. But obviously that didn't work out, so that was like my transitional period to start being a content creator. And that's when I bought my first camera. I think I was working at Dick's Sporting Goods at the time, and also the movie theater. So I was working two jobs to like fund my content creation career. And I was going to events. I think I was spending like $600-700 to go to these events. But at the time, there was no such thing as like rates for like photos, or as team photography, team videography, just making content for teams at the time. And nothing was as big as is today, with franchising, all that stuff in esports. So teams are just paying people out of like their own pocket. Like no one had like funders or investors. It was all just like random kids working jobs, trying to make the dream happen. So I was getting paid like 50-60 bucks to like take photos of a team for the weekend, but like depleting my bank account. But at the end of the day, I was like, you know what, if I keep doing this and grinding it out, it's going to happen. um,
That's dope.
and then about 2018, and I'll stop here, that's when Overwatch League started, and that was like the big boom of like the franchising. Now there's Valorant, Rocket League might get into franchising. So at that time, everyone was hiring. Franchising was like, oh, this 25-50 million dollar buy-in league. Like people have to have staff and retainers. So that's kind of how I got my start in the esports world.
What was the first, like, when's the first time you were like, this is my job? Like, what's the first gig you had?
The first gig I had, well, NRG was my first job, and that was for the San Francisco Shock, the Overwatch team. And I remember doing interviews, and I think the last interview I was with Andy Miller, the CEO, He's a super cool guy, but I remember that phone call. He was like, "Yeah, you got the job. You're gonna come out to Burbank, live with the team." And like hearing like living in California and like, thinking of Hollywood, entertainment, especially at like 18, 19, like
Mhm.
that was like, mind blowing. And like that first day flying there, I remember it was one of the games. I went to one of the games with my dad, and I was meeting the players, meeting the owners and stuff like that. And that was like the first true experience of like, wow, like I've been seeing this on my TV screen for so long. Like I'm actually here. Like this is like a, experience. It was crazy.
And you got to bring Pop with you too. That's a
Yeah.
moment, right? You're like,
Mm-hmm.
see, Dad, see, I told you, I told you.
That's what I was saying.
Not that he's not a believer, but still, I had to go to my first. I think FaZe brought me out like 5 or 6 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
My first event, and they're like, Kev, you're in town. I was here for something else, and they're like, dude, you just got to see it with your eyes. Like, I need you to see this, and
Yep.
it totally changed. Like that day, completely changed my career path. Right, I wouldn't be here without it for sure. But like, you got to see it. You got to see it in real life to really feel that.
And I think it's really cool for like people like in the 20s and their teens, because their parents see them in the room just playing video games all day long, but then they finally go to an event where people are winning huge lump sums of money, like headlines and newspapers, articles. Like it's a whole different experience seeing just on your son's TV or their phone or something like that.
And
Yep.
it's interesting. We talk about the timing, like we were talking about ages and how that affects thing, right? And so, like to think about if you're 19 then and it was just happening, like that, like you said, franchising was just
Mm-hmm.
starting. It's like that really was the first opportunity. I mean, there were guys like you see Ninja and like Courage and them grinding it out way back on
Mm-hmm.
Like Halo and stuff like that. But it wasn't the same where it was really starting to like take shape and like
Yeah.
you said, get franchised and have full arenas where you go there and it feels like sports, right? That's the big
Mm-hmm.
thing for me when I bring clients too is like you have to understand that it feels just like sports because it is sports.
It is. And I think too, like with the whole like arenas and like selling out venues and stuff like that, I always tell people if you really want to see like what true esports is, like of course, the Call of Duties, the Overwatch is like the mainstream esports, but like the biggest events are the Rocket Leagues, the Counter Strikes. Like those events are like pandemonium. Like those are honestly what I think is true esports.
People losing their minds in the crowds.
Like the
Yeah.
chants, it's crazy.
It's crazy. We were talking about Activision Blizzard shutting down in China. You saw that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're like, man, that's where teams go. Like China, we had some teams when I was at Adidas. We had some teams in Korea, and
Yep.
like they go like that is
That's
sports.
their mainstream. Mm-hmm.
Right, right. You can really feel it, man. It gets pretty crazy out there.
Dude, between that and WoW shutting down out there, I'm sure a few of them are ready
Oh, they're down
to
bad.
give it up, dude. Yeah.
Dude, that
Yeah.
spy balloon over here. They're trying to watch esports, man. They're trying to get some
Hmm.
games. You know what I mean? So I didn't know you were at NRG. Maybe I did actually. You have a pretty solid collection of jerseys now that I think about it, but I never know
Hmm.
if you worked there or not. So what are the orgs you worked with, and maybe in order if you can.
Yeah, so I won't go that far into detail of like I would say the amateur teams that I worked on before franchising started, but there was a few just Call of Duty teams here and there. Then my first real job was NRG, specifically for the Overwatch League team, the Shock. Then from there, I went to AEV, which was the holding company for Atlanta Reign, the Overwatch team, and then later partnered with FaZe Clan to make Atlanta FaZe. So on NRG, I was really just a content creator, just making content for the brand that was already created. But what was really cool about AEV was that I started from the very beginning because it was one of the expansion teams in 2019. So I built that brand like from zero, like the branding, the content, like helping manage the players. Like I was really like a huge integral part, and that was like such a big experience for me, just one career wise and also just like life wise, just learning so many cool skills and meeting new people, like traveling everywhere. It was so cool. And then from there, I realized that I couldn't make, Call of Duty content forever. Like it's cool and it's fun, but there's only so many videos I can make of, hey guys, here's my class setup. Like let's get right into the video. So I went from there to 100 Thieves, to also head their Call of Duty division of content, but also be part of like the YouTube strategy and the development of the content for digital programs. And then from there, Sub Nation working with Kevin.
Right. Okay. I was just had to
Oh.
check first before I got into some of the questions and stuff.
Hmm.
Oh, maybe he's been more places than How old is this man? Maybe you've been
It's
more
been a
places.
lot.
But good. So then it was phase first. So then
Hmm.
you were in Burbank, and then
Hmm.
you moved out to Atlanta, I imagine.
Yeah, so Burbank for energy, and then we lived in a country club. Funny enough, for Atlanta Rain, so we lived in Thousand Oaks. That place was beautiful. And then we moved from there to Atlanta because that's when the home market activation was starting, where people were having the home series and the home stands. So we moved to
Right.
Atlanta. I lived there for 3 years. That was a lot of fun. Way different from the West Coast, completely different.
Yeah.
Um, and then from there
Especially
back
the
to LA.
Northwest. I
Yeah,
imagine. Like I know it's well
completely
up there in the
different.
cold.
Completely different.
That's an experience. We're out
Hmm.
there with the y'alls. We were over in the South, gosh, maybe a year and a half ago now, but we were out there for a friend's wedding. And that was the first, like, I took Anton to like all black towns for the first
Yeah,
time. Like, it was like, whoa, they have
completely
these?
different.
That show, yeah, it is such a
Hmm.
different experience. And again, spending time up in like that Tacoma area, you won't find that.
Not at all. Honestly, nowhere in Washington either.
I'm about to say, yeah, that's a lot of culture extremes there, from
Yep.
Washington to California to Atlanta
Polar
back. That's
opposites. Yep.
Right. I've been in Puyallup, man. That's not what it looks like at that fair.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so energy, then phase, then 100 thieves, right? So
Yep.
it sounds like, I mean, even that's the beginning of CDL, right? You were there for the
Hmm.
yeah.
beginning of this kind of this era of CDL.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. How did
CDL
you get?
and Overwatch. I started a little later after the league started, but for both leagues respectively.
Damn, that's like an important experience. Overwatch League was
Hmm.
my shit.
It
So
was
That's
talk a
really
little
huge.
quick.
bit about how you
Which,
got. Good.
which Call of Duty was it that jumped off the Call of Duty League? I didn't look it up, but I'm curious. Do you happen to
Um,
remember?
Black Ops 4 was the last CWL title, and then it got into Modern Warfare, the first remake.
That's the last event I
Hmm.
went to. I went to the last CWL event. It wasn't an
The
MLG
Black
event.
Ops 4 one was the whole season, like champs, like all those events, London, like those are great.
We joke about like I just wandered. I'm like a music guy. Like wandered in there, and I walked in with Doc, and I didn't know who he was. You can imagine seeing him for the first time, and I was like, "Look at
Just a
this fucking
7 foot guy
dork!"
just towering over everyone.
I was like, "Look at this dork!" Like what? Like because he had his headset on and his little. And I was like, "This guy takes this shit so seriously." Like
Hmm.
again, if you've never seen him before, and then we walk in together, and they pulled me in through like whatever the VIP thing is. So
Yep.
we walk in together, and then we keep going in, and then he sits down at the broadcast booth.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, he's doing something. And
Yeah,
then I
he's
sat,
somebody.
seen him up on the thing. And yeah, now years later, I'm like, oh, that was the 2 time. Shit, that's my guy. But that's the other joke too. Every time I go, FaZe loses. I've seen FaZe lose to Thieves in the final like 3 times
I
live.
think they're playing. They're actually playing against each other today.
As long as I don't watch,
Yeah,
man, FaZe is gonna be okay.
you can't jinx it. You can't jinx
He's
it.
Delman.
So you told us a little bit about how you got the NRG job. How did FaZe come about? Did you find them? Did they find you?
Yeah, so it was kind of both, but it was also just networking. Lucky enough, the head coach for Atlanta Rain was also the head coach on the Shock, so I already had like instant connection there. So I just reached out and said, "Hey, do you have the contact for whoever's in charge of content or marketing or whatever?" And then I shot him a DM on Discord. That's how funny, getting jobs has come just shooting Discord messages. But we just had a few conversations, and then I talked to the owner, and I think like I had my first interview and got hired on the same day, so it was a pretty quick process.
Fast. And then this is the owner. This is Lee and Eric, or is this like
No,
Atlanta based?
his name's Paul Hamilton. He is the founder of AEV, specifically Atlanta Esports Ventures, and that is Atlanta Rain, also partner of the Cox Enterprises, the internet company. And then he has a partnership with FaZe Clan for Atlanta FaZe. Cool guy.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, sounds like it. Sounds like it. So you had a good time there, and again, that was a moment. I still have I have mad Atlanta FaZe, and just like you see me at work sometimes. I just have
Yep.
random Atlanta FaZe shirts.
Hmm.
I'm like part of the team, man. I love those guys.
That's
Um,
great.
what's maybe like your most memorable experience with that crew?
Um, Definitely winning champs was really cool. I see my ring right here. The owner gave like all of us champs rings, which was really cool. I think when we first created the team, the first announcement, we made a video. We all flew to Las Vegas to announce the team, like the owners, the players, their parents, All of us were in Vegas for like a whole weekend. It was super cool. We also rented out this huge production studio. It was all green screen. We did a bunch of content for them, and we announced the video of Offset doing the song. He had a feature in it, and he like just got signed to FaZe Clan at the time, so it was like a huge like press opportunity. But it was a super cool experience, like launching a team, like me wanting to be in FaZe since I was like 12, 13 years old, and also working with FaZe Clan on the video, working with Offset, one of my favorite musicians. It was just a cool experience, and I was like, wow, like this is something I'm going to remember for like the rest of my life.
Yeah,
That was dope because I remember when that happened too. So to know that you were there when all that was going on is really dope.
It was super cool.
He was super big at the time too. My man going with Cardi and everything. I remember that, like teaching that moment at work, being like, "No, you guys, like this thing is happening." I mean, two kind of randomest questions, but I got to know since you were there. One, were you a part of those like crazy seating packages? I got some of the wildest seating stuff. I have like a full ghillie suit. I have like a whole 6-foot.
What's funny is that was it the brown crate with like the spray paint on it? Yeah, I was the one spray painting the logos and all that stuff. That's hilarious.
I have like the gas mask with the can on it. It's all in Russian and shit. And it's like, oh, they really, you guys remember all those videos I'd make?
I remember it too, because like the coolest person I remember that we found out had the box was Trippie Redd. He had like a music video wearing the FaZe ghillie suit, and we were like all freaking out in the office.
I saved it like, I don't know when I'm gonna, some Halloween or something like that. I don't know when I'm gonna use this, what I'm gonna do with this coolest shit. But I kept the gas mask for sure. I got it right there and kind of keep it in my.
The gas mask was cool.
Yeah, man, you guys had a lot of fun with that. And then one that is more strategic or tactical rather. But I've always been mad curious about this. Again, not an esports podcast. So when you say coaches, and I met do you know Zephyr?
Yeah, he's on OTF right now, right? OTF
yeah. See, I told you guys I knew a guy for real. That's a real person. But I remember I met him at that same event where I met Doc and Eric and all the guys. And I was just, I didn't want to be weird, but I was like, what do coaches? I think he was a manager at the time. And again, we're sports guys. Like in the UK, the manager is the coach. So either way, what do the coaches do? And I mean, like again, tell me like I know nothing because I don't. What do the coaches do in like CDL? Are they in the player's ear, like telling them, like what's going on? Is it more like a training regimen? What's a Call of Duty coach do?
Yeah, so I mean, I would think it's pretty similar to how traditional sports coaches are, to a certain degree, obviously. Well, you have the head coach, you have an assistant coach. Sometimes some teams have like an analyst or like a player development coach that specifically works on certain things with the players. Say like for Call of Duty, they need to get better at hardpoint or get better at search and destroy. Those coaches, the player development, will specifically work on those skills with them. The head coach normally works on the macro, the reviews, the VOD reviews after every match. The top level assistant coaches and like strategy and analysis, like I think those are probably like the hardest working on the team because they have just spreadsheets and spreadsheets of data, like how to play the game. Like they're really in depth, and I think like that skill is really good to have because you can be on any team you want, you can do anything you want really in the Call of Duty space, because I think those people can also be players to a certain degree. But in terms of the like in the ear, like during matches they have halftime, so it's kind of like traditional sports where after I think 2 maps they go back and they have a huddle, they go over how to go through the rest of the series. They also are able to talk to them in between matches, so after map 1 they'll go on stage, have a little pep talk, map 2 have a little pep talk, map 3 same thing. So they have a lot of communication, and I think honestly like without coaches, like gun skill can win you games, but I think really the strategy behind it is what wins you championships.
That's wild, interesting. And again, legit didn't know that. So are there coaches like that are like, is there a coach that's like that guy's a difference maker, right? We think of like with in Jordan days, right? We got Phil, or even in soccer we got Pep, where there's like that coach is as valuable as so and so many players. Are there coaches like that?
Yeah, I think that's cool too, because the majority of coaches actually right now are also players, but there is also a wide amount of coaches that have been Call of Duty champions when they're playing in their playing days. On FaZe you have Crowder. He's won champs as a player and as a coach, so he's super respected. I think he's super smart and he's great at what he does. On 100 Thieves, JCap, he's won champs multiple times as a player, and he just won champs as a coach last year.
Mhm.
So I think those two are probably the best in my opinion. You also have Rambo and Optic, who's just known as like one of the smartest players in Call of Duty history. So there's a lot of teams that have just like great brains behind the team, and it shows in the gameplay. So I think it's really cool having like that repertoire of a coach on your team.
Damn. This is cool to know. All right, two more coach
Mhm.
questions, and this is not the coach's podcast. But I'm like, oh, this is
The
super
coach's
interesting.
corner.
All right, we got coach's corner. Are there any coaches that are like ill, not even Call of Duty, right? Ill
Mhm.
esports coaches that were not good players. So you see that in the NFL a lot. You see that in across sports, really, where it's like that guy wasn't even a pro,
Mhm.
but is still a really great mind. Does that ever happen?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they were like necessarily bad players because I think esports has a lot to do with just like popularity and like brand building. Like you could be, a low tier player but also have like the biggest brand and vice versa. But I think players that really haven't had that much success as a player, Cinder is a great coach. I believe he's on NYSL. And I think they're like the best team in the league right now, next to probably LA Thieves. And then there's one other coach, Joey Nubsy, I believe. He's a really good coach as well. But I think players and coaches, I think if you're not as good as a player, but you also build a brand, you can either stay on the team as a content creator, and that provides way more value, I think, than being a player. Especially if you're not performing and you want to do something more than just being a player. You think your time's running out. Like being a coach and having that success is just as equally as important.
Damn, I need to bring you back on for the deep dive esports pod. I got mad
I
questions.
know.
Last one, the last one I'll stay here on, unless you guys got more, of course. Is are there assistant coaches? As you were talking about, we talk about that a lot. Like it's you can't just be like you said the best with gun skill or the best at one
Mm-hmm.
thing. The games are very different. If you're playing hardpoint, deathmatch, whatever it is, are there like are there different coaches for the different like games? Like kind of like a position coaches. When you were saying that, I was like, is that like a quarterback's coach and like a
Yeah,
defense
yeah.
coach?
Kind of, yeah. So I'll just speak for FaZe since I know that the most. Tupac, he is a S&D specialist, but he also is a streamer and content creator. But his full name is Tupac Thuglord, and his name is John, but he's a super cool guy. His name makes me laugh every time I hear it. But he specifically is the S&D coach. So Crowder and RJ, they're the head and assistant coaches. They work on the respawn, and of course S&D too, the full game. But Tupac is really like their strategy coach, and the most strategy comes from search and destroy. How you rotate,
Right.
how you trade kills, how you maneuver around the map. So I think having like people who are really good at what they've already done in gameplay wise be like their core specific niche of coaching. I think that is probably one of the coolest things that I've seen in coaching for Call of Duty specifically.
Also, wild, interesting. That's just saying it's hard to watch. What's up?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't mind, I kind of want to piggyback off that, but it would kind of be a little. So because I remember seeing a video back where there was a guy saying kind of be the opposite of this, where coaches are like
Mm-hmm.
unnecessary in esports.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess to kind of be like, do you think that coaches are more necessary in different games, like in like Valorant? Do you think it would be more necessary to have a coach than Call of Duty, or
Yeah.
like Rainbow Six, or something like
Mm-hmm.
that? Like is there different tier games that you would think where coaches are more valuable?
Yeah, I think of those strategic games like the Valorant, CS, Rainbow Six, coaches for sure on like the strategy side. For Call of Duty, I think just because one, the game changes every year, and
Hmm.
also like the game modes also change every year. People kind of have a hard way of saying like, oh, coaches are needed for this. Coaches aren't needed because like the game's different every year. Like no one can actually have a set strategy, and also
Hmm.
because there was also a span where we didn't have coaches at all in Call of Duty. They were just going on stage and playing. Like they were just coaching themselves. So there's really like no real say. But in my opinion, I think they're needed just because like if you're a player, like all you're doing is playing the game, you can't really see like how you're doing from an outside perspective from someone watching, the four of you go as a team and how you guys play as a team. But of course, game skill and gun skill can only take you so far, like I said.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, this is good to know. Also, this is not a technical question at all, but still kind of esportsy. Maybe it's not even a question. Maybe this is like a statement. This is my like tinfoil hat going on. I think the names you're talking about, Tupac, Thug Lord, Shakur, the second or whatever his name is,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, man. Sometimes I'm at these events and I'm like, I wonder if the names are a barrier. There's like two things I think are like a barrier to esports, like breaking into the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
One, goddamn Totino's and Mountain Dew. If we don't get rid of the fucking pizza rolls and the Mountain Dew, like it's like, man, it's never gonna. This is parents are
Yeah.
never gonna co-sign this. It's so unhealthy. But then the other thing is the players' names: XX Thug Lord at X, Lil Yachty V7, and I'm like, man, Baby Tron ass, like
Simp.
it's right, Simp, like is great, but also like the thing about your name is that's not like a word that
Hmm.
we love to use.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, maybe not even a question, but an observation where I'm like, damn, how do they get that ironed out? It's like such a core part of gamer
Hmm.
culture, but it also is such a core part of the turnoff of gaming culture. Sometimes I see guys on 2K. We were joking about having a new segment where Anton just brings in the 10 worst 2K names he sees every week.
2K has the worst names I've ever seen, to be honest.
I see some incredible ones, dude. I
And
see some
it
incredible ones.
randomly tells you a bit about the person. You got the mad
Hmm.
XX drug lord guy, and I'm like, I hate this person. And then sometimes they just got something funny, like our second shout out in a row, but our boy Kevin Ray, Kevin Ray Cyrus, that we knew he was gonna, we knew what it was, with that guy.
We are dying, bro.
Uh,
We loaded in the wreck with this dude named Kevin Ray, and he was a bucket. Like
Fair enough.
Kevin Ray got the hot hand, man. Just give it
Fair
to him.
enough.
Any
so
man with two
he
first
had the
names.
build like that boy from High School Musical. Shit was killing me. He had the bowl cut, the white guy with the
The
bowl
wild
cut. He
Zac
was a
Efron.
Hmm.
bucket. Our guy. Okay, all right. We got super far off track, but that's kind of the point here because we had some good conversation. So that's how you started at Phase. How
Hmm.
about, and you mentioned it a bit, right? There's so much you could do over there. How'd you get involved with Thieves, and what did that process look like?
Yeah, so after phase, and I wanted to just, expand my horizons. An old coworker of mine was currently on 100 Thieves, and they were hiring for a bunch of content positions. And I was already looking at them for like my next job because I still think like they're the peak of esports. Like they're who everyone wants to join, who everyone wants to be a part of. Like every content creator goes on that team to just excel. Like partnerships with YouTube, uh, like every brand known to man. So I thought that was just like the next place to go, the best next place to go. So I got the job through her, and I joined them as the content curator producer for LA Thieves, the Call of Duty team, and also just helping out with the overall YouTube strategy. And I think I was there for about 6 months. And then, as everyone knows, as public knowledge, they had a lot of layoffs. So I just wanted to kind of just separate myself from that space. And I also wanted to, get into more of the tech side, the more entertainment and building brands. I really love doing that at Phase, starting out with that franchise team. So that's how I found Sub Nation.
That makes sense. I did want to
Mm-hmm.
ask you a bit about those layoffs because there was some stuff recently going on. But before that, I wanted to check in. How did your boys at Phase, your boys and girls, how'd your people at Phase feel about that transition? Was that a little bit of a that hurt them a little bit?
Yeah, it was tough. Like I was really sad for a while, but I knew it, like trajectory, like I needed to make that decision. Like I just couldn't see myself making Call of Duty content forever after I felt like I've done everything I could for the brand, in the state that it was. But yeah, it was really hard. I still talk to people on that team. Like every time I go to an event, I went to Champs last year for Thieves, but I was still hanging out with my Phase boys. Like I still miss them. We had the best times in that facility. But yeah, it was a tough time, separating myself
Damn, I
and
didn't know
leaving.
you were there. I was there with John Sen in my
Oh,
Phase gear to watch
nice.
them lose again, which was fucking tough. We're like, we're gonna party after this. Like, we're going to the house and we're gonna. And then the match ended, and they're like, "Yeah, for next time, man, forget about it."
Yeah.
It happens every time. But yeah, fair enough, man. Those are the two, and like it has been weird, right? Like Phase did, they built they built the brand the way they built the brand, kind of flipping their heritage into what became a business, right? We're going to
Hmm.
cover that in the pod today. Their stock is in trouble. But then Thieves came in and was a kind of able to kind of copy the strategy a little bit, but kind of refine it. Again, I think one big
Hmm.
stage is like getting the team in LA was huge, right? You want to
Yep.
be here where all the stuff is, all the companies are,
Hmm.
had big names like Drake involved, and they picked the right personalities. It reminds me a little bit of the Nike Adidas story, right? Where like Adidas
Yep.
had this long heritage and really invented this industry. And Nike is like, oh, you could do that? What if I did that over in the States, though? Like, you guys are over in Germany doing that. What if we brought it where the culture is and kind of copied the playbook, but truly took it forward, right? And it's like, I
Hmm.
wonder how that handoff goes it's been interesting to watch FaZe, everybody mature, and they went through a lot of stuff, and like the crypto time too. I was just looking at there's been some like older FaZe guys that I've been unfollowing recently because some of their stuff is just getting kind of cringe.
Yeah.
Even like Kay and Jarvis, and I was like, oh man, some of this stuff, like I'm not into it for like the internet of it all. Like I was following the gamers, So it's been interesting to watch them evolve, but of course not going away anywhere, right? Then they get
Right.
the deal with Disney and the deal with Porsche. And it's like, man, they're huge. But really interesting to watch Thieves alongside that.
Yeah, I think like FaZe is also launched like a collab with LeBron and a Nike shoe coming out. So like
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
just
Bronny's in
yep.
FaZe.
But
Right.
100 Thieves, like the Gucci, the Lexus partnerships, like just how well they've like diversified their portfolio and like getting non-endemic brands into the space in like a seamless way. I think that's the way esports and just the gaming industry as a whole is going to go. You're going to see a lot more product placement and sponsorships. Like I know for a fact, like in the next 3-4 years, like we're going to start seeing ads like within video games, like billboards, plastered posters on the wall, like for like real life ads. So
That's
I
our
think that's the way
business.
it's going to go. Yep.
In fact, I have two things on that. I have one as yet. Well, I can't say what it is yet because it's still confidential, but it's like the biggest fucking game on the planet. And that's the very last ad campaign I ran at Adidas is inside the game. It's like a
Yep.
scale. If you could guess here, it's like a scale replica of New York City. I mean, only so many games do that. But we'll be able to see. And again, it still hasn't come out. I did this. I left them almost a year ago, and it still doesn't come out for another like 8 months. But it's going to come out, and it's a real life ad campaign for our real products inside this gamified New York. But to your point, that's happening. That's a bit of the business that we're in now, right? That's kind of some of what we're doing.
Yep.
Another story from the same era. I was like tearing my hair out trying to get. So I had FaZe Clan and Adidas. Like the deal was there. Like it was there. Like I had it all the way back to Germany. Like the deal was ready to go. And like literally, we had a contract. I think I can say this now, but they can't fire me, so I don't care. We had a contract on the table, like literally on the physical table when COVID kicked off.
Cheers.
And then everything shut down. They're like, hold on a minute. And I'm like, no. This is the time. This is the time to do it. Gaming's going to go. And then
everything's going to go on gaming. Yeah.
Adidas said, stop everything. Fire anybody that's not an actual employee. Get rid of all the contractors. We got to hold on to our money because we don't know what's happening, right? You had to shut down stores across the globe. So they said, no
That's
new
the perfect time, too.
So I was telling them, I was like, you guys, you don't understand. We can get Bronny James in Adidas. I'm telling you, we can get Bronny in Adidas. This FaZe, right? This Braun FaZe shoe. It would be be a Bad Bunny FaZe shoe. Like, oh man, we could have swiped the King's Prince from out from underneath him.
You could have.
Oh, it was there. I'm hurt. Before we get to those layoffs, I did want to ask though, most memorable experience at Thieves.
It's funny because both FaZe and Thieves, like probably just being on the stage when we won champs, like those are just cool experiences. Like wanting to be a professional Call of Duty player when I was like 13 and seeing like the first event I think I saw was MLG Dallas when Scump and Aches were on Quantum Leverage, like a long time ago. But like seeing them up on stage, like winning that event, like I was like, wow, I want to be that. And like just being able to do that like twice on like the biggest stage in Call of Duty was just a really cool experience for me.
That's dope.
Did you get a ring?
Not from Thieves, but I got one from FaZe.
I see it's still FaZe up here. We're still going with the FaZe. They're giving out the jewelry. Trying to see the chain. Where's the chains at? Trying to get them PC chains out here. But okay, yeah. Then last piece on Thieves there. I know, and you said they went through some layoffs. Was there 2 rounds of layoffs? I just saw the big layoffs like a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. So I wondered how you felt about that. And then was there 2 rounds or just kind of the one?
There was 2 that I know of. The one that I was part of was when I first left, and like that was also just my first experience of layoffs. Like I've always heard of people getting laid off, and like I always thought that was a terrible thing to go a part of, which it is. But like actually being within that happening, like it was just a crazy like eye-opening experience for me. Like people love their jobs, like jobs, love having them part of the atmosphere and the family, but like anything can happen. Like there's like no one's safe, like anything can happen to anyone. So I was like, it kind of shook me. Like I was just like really sad for a while, like seeing people lose their jobs, like not out of any of their own performance, but like just the way of the business. Like it was just like tough to see. So getting out of that like helped me like kind of understand like, hey, like jobs will always be around. Like I could, try something new for the next 5 years and I'll be only 30. Like I have so much time to do whatever I want. But just understanding that like, life is short and like finding something you love while also making the most amount of money and the most amount of free time is like everyone's goal, I think, at the end of the day. But yeah, it was just tough to see. But there was 2 layoffs. My friend was actually part of the second one. But yeah, I don't know the exact number, but it was a lot of layoffs. That's all I can say.
It's a wild time, man. It is a little bit, and we've been talking about that on the pod. It's I mean, even bigger than that, it's a macroeconomic change, but certainly in our
Mm-hmm.
space. And our space is one that grew so big during the pandemic. Everyone's like,
Mm-hmm.
"It's here to stay. This is gonna be great," and then
Yeah.
things aren't great. It's like how we're gonna make money, and some of them aren't, and it's kind of bleak out there. But like you were saying, I think the skill sets are still really, really relevant and important.
Yeah, I think too, like COVID, I think it helped a lot for gaming, but also really destroyed a lot for gaming because before COVID, like the 2018, 2019, when franchising was first started, like everyone was trying to just be the biggest name. Like, what's the biggest thing we can do to gain, a following? Like, everyone was trying to build a brand. Everyone started at zero. So it was all about who could do the coolest things, who could do the best stunts. And that was just spending money, just burning money, getting like mansions for team houses. People want to get team branded sprinter vans, helicopters, like spending whatever they want, facilities to get the most views, the most hype, like, oh, this is the coolest team out right now. And like all that money, like obviously having to buy in for 25, 50 million, like that's so much money up front. And then COVID happens and you lose all your sponsorships, you lose all of your sales. You don't sell any jerseys because there's no events, no one sees your events happening, it's all online. So all that revenue just goes away. And then unfortunately all that drama and the scandals of Activision Blizzard happen and all the sponsorship deals go away. The Coca-Colas, the HPs, everyone cuts ties of Activision, so you have no money coming in from like an outside perspective, and it just turns into no revenue. And of course, when people aren't making any money, they're not going to, cut the players, they're not going to cut the teams, they're going to cut the staff. So it's just like a byproduct of just terrible, I think, planning early on in the 2018s, 2019s.
Growing a little bit too quick, right? Like you're saying
Mm-hmm.
about you're going to cut staff. Staff stays around.
Yep.
Players, they have a short half life.
Mm-hmm.
You're only as good as you are, right? As soon
Yep.
as you're not so good, it's like, well, you're cut, and you know why. It's
Yep.
hard to do that with staff. Like, man, well, we didn't win, and your KD was low. You can't do that with staff. They just stick around and eat up that insurance money. So it's
Mm-hmm.
tough to see people that love the game, right? People like yourself and like myself and all of us here that grew up in this and really are
The
dedicated to
true
it.
faces of the brand, like the
Right.
players are just like a persona, like, but the people who run the brand, you see everything that happens behind the scenes, like those are the people you're letting go, and it just sucks to see.
Right. I just think that in
Yeah.
the music industry all the time, people be like, "Oh, those are the suits," and they'd be like, "Every person here lives for this. Like nobody
Yep.
comes to work at a record label that doesn't like. How many people want to work here? You have to live this shit. It's really
Mm-hmm.
hard. We know music. There are random people that become famous artists. There's nobody random that works at the label. You have to live
Exactly.
work there. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. Same thing. Well, shoot, man, it has been tough, but again, like we said, that insight, right? And what they know, we even do that at work now. There's so much content creation we do that's like, how much do we talk about Riverside at work? We're like, there's easier ways to do this. Like we
Mm-hmm.
know how to do that. Just let us do it. The skill sets are really relevant and will stick around. And having an understanding of that culture, right? Even how the world of 2K and things like that work is creating more and more opportunity for us. So we'll stick it out.
For sure.
Transitioning just a tiny bit, I got some questions about kind of like the current state of things, and then we're going to wrap it up with some fun stuff there. I
Cool.
did want to check though. What do you think about and we talked about it a bit, talking about the layoffs, but what do you think about the current state of CDL?
Well, I just actually heard it's going back to YouTube apparently.
I saw
So
that. I saw that. Yeah, yeah.
not good.
Yeah.
I think if it does happen, I don't think it's going to happen, but if it does, they definitely are doing it for the lack of money. Like going from YouTube to Twitch, they saw like a 10x amount of viewers, like going back to Twitch. All the watch parties, like Scump's watch party, I think hit 100,000 views yesterday. Like their collective like live viewership is insane. And like going back to
Wow.
YouTube where they had maybe 20,000 at like their peak times, 40,000, 50,000. Like I don't see any like ROI on that. So I don't know. I don't think the future of it's doing well, especially if all these teams are laying people off. Like you gotta wonder like what's next for like the brands. Like teams are gonna like start selling off. Like are they gonna start transferring ownership? Like I don't know. So I hope the league does well. It's doing great right now. I think the weekend's about to start for a Champ Sunday for a Major 2, and I think it's Boston's homestand. I think it looks great. So teams are still doing well in the event category, but in terms of like the macro of the league, I don't know. If it goes back to Egypt, it might be failed. Not failed, but pretty fucked.
Right. It feels like a tough time. I wonder again. The game changes so quick; it's hard to latch onto. And like a
Mm-hmm.
Madden or a FIFA, where it's like we know what we're looking for. It's like it changes so much.
Every year.
But
Mm-hmm.
right, and I guess kind of on that kind of on the same notion there. What do you think about COD itself right now? A lot of conversation about again the gun tuning and the game modes. We just heard they're kind of wiping your progress for DMZ. What do you think about the game itself?
Um, I could talk about this for hours from my own perspective, but I don't know. I just think like the games now from the top, I think they're so like worried of like having like fan sentiment be so bad. Like they're overcomplicating trying to make like the next best game. Like every game just
Mhm.
seems so like overcomplicated. Like the past 3 games, I will say that this Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is my favorite game I've played in like the past 4 years. But ever since like the first MW, like every game has just seemed way too overcomplicated. Like from the menus, they just hired like a bunch of like streaming service executives and like creatives like from Hulu, HBO, and that's why you see like on the game now like why it looks like a streaming service. All the blocks like going down and like swiping to all the different categories like the DMZ, multiplayer, Hulu, like it's all like a streaming service. This doesn't make any sense. And like the gun tuning, like why are there 80 red dot sights for one gun? Like it doesn't make any sense. So I don't know. I think the game's just becoming like too like consumer friendly and too like the noob favored game because everything is favored for someone who doesn't play the game or someone who doesn't have the advantage. Like you go into a public match, skill based matchmaking, you're playing against players who haven't got off the game in a week, like players that need to touch grass. And then if you play with someone else that played for 5 minutes, you play the worst players you've ever seen. So I just think they're just catering like the player way too much and not having like an actual competitive experience. The games take way too long to add updates. They just delayed season 2, I think, another 2 weeks. Like it's coming out on the 15th, I believe, and it's supposed to come out
Hmm.
on the 1st. So I just don't think they're in the right space to keep making games. I'm glad that they're having this game for a 2-year cycle. It's the first time Call of Duty's ever done that, so we'll see how that goes over. But I think they need to start allowing developers to just finish the game. Like it's clear that they're coming out unfinished, and it like sucks to see for having developer that brings in $1 billion of revenue each year. Like, what are they spending that money on?
Right.
But at the same time, like, just give us a game that we're proud to play, but also you're proud to, sell to people because, like, we're gonna buy it anyway. Like, it's a consumer's market. Like, you can hate the game so much, but we're
We're
still gonna
buying
buy
COD.
it. But at least, like, finish the game. That's all I can say.
I swear Anton said like exactly that last week. He was like, just if it's gonna be a beta, then just be a beta and test it, and
Yeah.
that's fine. We'll
Mm-hmm.
wait. Like we'll wait. But
Yeah.
if it's not done, don't sell it. Don't sell it out here at full price and say it's done and then not be done. And then
Mm-hmm.
we were saying that this first season kind of felt like a beta test. Like actually, we're gonna go the gulag the other way, and actually, we're gonna. They made mad changes to like so you weren't serious about what you gave us, or
And
you were
if you
still doing
notice too,
it.
like they keep doing, they've been doing more and more like hot patches, like daily bug fixes.
Mhm.
Like it seems
Yep.
like they're still like finishing the game, like while it's out.
Mhm.
Let me get a hot 3 year cycle. You know what I mean? Give us 1 year as a test phase, 2 years of a real game. I'm cool with that. I'd be cool
Where
with
Hmm.
the
that.
hell are the patch notes?
Seriously, like if anything, like when the game comes out, you have 3 years to make it. Like either just keep the same game you had the previous cycle and just make new DLC, new maps, new whatever, new guns. But like if you're making a brand new game, like the games that go from like boots on the ground to jetpacks, like that's a whole new like character model you have to build out from scratch. Like
Mhm.
in 3 years, like either it's gonna be polished or it's gonna be in like still the pre-alpha phases. Like there's no in between.
As long as it's not Battlefield, all right? That's all we don't want. That's gotta hurt so bad. Talk about getting layoffs. Everybody's fired. I'm going
Yeah.
hard cold on them. Everybody's fired, and you're getting shot with the darts. Oh
The
man,
game's
you
playable
guys,
now though.
is it? Did they finally? They screwed the pooch, man. I gave up on that shit. It's a meme to me now.
It's one of those things where it's like I'm happy that they cater to their audience, but it
Yep.
almost annoys me when companies start backtracking and
Hmm.
doing things to cater to their audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the virtue
Like,
signaling, like just like the fan servicing, like with Battlefield. Like I actually really enjoyed like the beta when it came out. Like it was really
yeah,
fun. And then like when the game came out, like it seemed like they deleted half their files. Like it was worse than the beta. Like everything was crashing. Like the game didn't work. There were so many bugs. Like I remember for like a month, like all of Twitter is just Battlefield 2042 memes. Like it
yeah,
was so funny, but I don't know. Like I loved Battlefield for a while. Like it was a lot of fun to play, but I don't know. I just think they try to service like being so different for so
dude.
long.
They did the same thing like Call of Duty with the whole your character customization, the
Mm-hmm.
weapon. It's the same thing, and it's like I come from like two of my favorite games. They're not mainstream games, are Ark and DayZ. Both
Mm-hmm.
of those games have crazy learning curves. Like they don't cater to you. If you just don't
No.
figure it out, you die and you just throw that game away or whatever. And they haven't changed it at all. They stick to
Yep.
their model and that's it. And I love that about those. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
look, either you learn it or you don't. It's like so having these new era of games where it's like, oh, we're gonna do this and then we're gonna backtrack it to this and keep changing it and changing it. It's like, come on, man. Like
Like pick a
just keep the
lane.
learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we all loved it. That's why we loved about Battlefield and Call of Duty originally was the learning curve in those games. And it's like when the line just keeps getting pushed and
It's
pushed,
all
it's like,
gone.
yeah,
Damn, that's what
mm,
I hear about. It always surprises me a little bit, but that's what I hear about Apex. And like Jarrell,
Mm-hmm.
I was
hmm
heavy in music for a while. When I got back into gaming, that was like one of the first newer games that I played. I just like
Yep.
dropped in. I'd never played a VR before. I'd never played
Mm-hmm.
Fortnite, nothing. And I was like, what is happening? I got killed by the storm because I was like, what is the storm? What the fuck? But either way, like people talk about that game with the learning curve, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm just so many years in, but it's true. But that's what I love about it. Like, if you're brand new to that game, you've never played it, I'm doing some different shit. Like we're on some
It
other
builds
shit.
that obsession, like the obsession that we had, like when we were in our teens and stuff like that. Like you want to get better. Like everyone hates getting shit on in any video game. So like just doing that over and over, you're like, okay, I'm gonna either get good at the game and just get my revenge, or I'm just gonna quit this because the learning curve's too much. Like
Because
it's
I'm a
either
quitter.
or.
Fam, I've been on it. I'm following like the mouse and keyboard chronicles over here, where I'm like, no, I'm not
Nice.
giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm just being here in pubs, just getting my ass kicked, just getting my ass
What would
kicked.
you rate your guys' mouse and keyboard skills from 1 to 10?
non-existent.
Mm. Uh, I'm gonna give myself. I'm at like a 5.5 right now. I've been really grinding though.
Okay. Is it just Apex you guys are playing right now, or what else?
I've been playing well. Let them speak too, but I've been playing mostly Call of Duty because it's the multiplayer is the
Mm-hmm.
quickest. I can die and
Yep.
come back, die and come back. I
Mm-hmm.
can't be doing no Apex. I gotta load out and load back in. And there's also it's interesting, but talk about learning curve. There's a ton of other shit to do in Apex.
Mm-hmm.
Like I gotta know my passive. I'm trying to shoot grappling hooks. I'm trying to
Yep. The
pop
abilities.
shield cells. There's mad other things to know. But
Mm-hmm.
Call of Duty, I can get a lot more point and shoot, and I'm just now like just yesterday I was balling. I was on Shipyard. I finally got 50 plus. I was like, yes,
Let's go.
I finally was top ranked in there. I had to take a picture of that shit. Like, yes. And it's starting to feel like second nature. I was doing, I'm hopping over things, turning around and doing shit on purpose. Where
Mm-hmm.
for a
Like
little
John
while,
Wick,
you're just
yo.
like, there's so many buttons on keyboard. You're just like, hold on, what? If you have to read it and then go press the button, you're dead. Like
You're already
you
dead, yeah.
can't be like, I gotta press
Especially
four.
on shipment, you're dead in 0.5 seconds.
Fam, it's done. So yeah, just yesterday I had my best shipment performance by a mile, but I'm getting there.
Okay, okay.
I would say same. I actually just started getting into Apex too. Apex, Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only one that doesn't have PC, so they always get on me about getting one and jumping over to Valorant and shit like that. But a little
Good
bit of
luck with
Overwatch.
Valorant.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing is the learning curve with that. And then a little bit of Rainbow Six actually. Just re-downloaded that. I've been trying to get back
That's
into
my
that.
favorite game. I love that game.
I love it. I used to go so sweat on that. But again, that's another crazy learning curve in that game. You need to take
The
your time and sit
leaning, all
down.
that stuff, yeah.
Yeah, dude.
I
Yeah,
can't.
so.
Anton, you played Shad's PC a couple times though, right? Neil, back when he got it. No,
Mm-mm.
that was like my first time playing on mouse and keyboard, with just messing around with your PC, like trying to get it. Shad, where you at? 1 to 10, boyo?
Probably like 7.5.
Ooh,
Okay.
he's spicy.
Professional up there.
He's been
I,
over
I,
there
I,
longer. He's the longest.
I'd give
People
myself
walking on the
probably the same. I really only am good at like CS, terrible at Valorant. Like that
That was the
game.
first game I played,
Okay.
like FPS
Mm-hmm.
wise. CS, yeah.
CS, I love
1.
CS.
1.5, 1.6.
1.6 is when I started too, yeah.
Yeah.
Overwatch 2 I love. Like I hate Overwatch 1. I'd rage probably every second game I'd get on. Overwatch 2, way better at that one. I give that 5 stars. But I remember when I first started mouse and keyboard, I thought I was like an alien. Like I didn't know what I was doing. Like I couldn't move, I couldn't shoot. Like I literally thought I was like mechanically inept for at least like a month. And then it started gradually getting better.
looking like a bot in the lobby.
I was trying to relearn how to use my broken hand. Like, oh, this is not going. I just finally got these like little inside buttons down where I'm like using them. I'm like, oh yeah, you got to use the shit you have, dork. I'm just starting to get there.
The keybinds.
Bam, on Valorant, I'm too embarrassed to play. I'm so bad. I'm like, I need to get like, is there a beginner's lobby so you guys know? I had such a bad match the other day, but I was like, I'm literally a level 1. So like, if you guys could just forgive me.
And Valorant is a game that is unforgiving. Like you'll be level 1 if like level 300s in your lobby. It's so bad.
You die so fast in that game. You die so like if you get seen, you're dead.
Instant.
That's it. If you get seen, you're dead. I didn't know how to use the abilities at all. I was like the fire dude just because he's black. I was like,
Phoenix.
And I forgot to use after the match, I was sitting there like looking at my score like, God, I'm so bad. And I was like, damn, if I play with somebody who didn't use their abilities one time, I would be like, man, what are you here for? Like, what
just
are you
raging.
doing? Those poor, before we start, they're just all looking at me with their guns like, bro, what are you doing? Like, I'm old, I'm bad. All right, just a couple to wrap it up. I know you got some champs going on today. Don't want to keep you forever and ever.
No worries.
But staying on you for a second, what are your long-term goals in gaming, right? What are your like 10 year plus goals if they're to stay in gaming or be around it? What's your long-term goals?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to eventually get back to like esports in some capacity. Probably not from a team perspective, but from like a league point of view, like whether it be like a creative producer, like it's broadcasting, programming, like just forming like a brand content-wise. That'd be a dream to do, like owning that as like the creative director. Still want to stay within like the production and like content space. Another life of me would love to work in like TV and film as like a producer or like a gaffer or something in the production. I love making just short films and short film ideas, and I think like creating that as a living would be really cool. But I don't know, something still within gaming for sure as a producer or a content creator.
I'm ready for CDL the movie. You know what I mean? Produced by Jarel. I'm ready for that.
CDL documentary. I think CDL could have a great reality show. Like all the personalities would be hilarious.
That's where I'm at. It's like, where's the reality show? And even like, I wonder if you could have fun. I could see that on. I could see it like an HBO, like The Office style sports, where it's like kind of funny with it. You know, with the personalities, making fun of not making fun of, making fun with the personalities rather.
I think that's honestly what it would need. Because I mean, like for me with like F1. I didn't know anything about F1, but watching the show on Netflix has got me totally invested in them and the drivers and seeing them behind the scenes and the struggles through the season leading up to each race and afterwards and the coaches. Like, no, that'd be really cool on like a personal level. They should do
that'd be fire.
I like that. I never thought of that.
You heard it here first. Go ahead and make sure we get our royalties on that, though. You know,
exactly.
Credits. I don't even need the money. Just put me in the credits. I'll take that. And then there's a kind of a fun way to close out here. I'll do some quick fire questions. So don't overthink it, right? Just hit us with whatever comes first. PlayStation or Xbox?
PlayStation.
Crash or Spyro?
Spyro.
Mega Man or Sonic?
Mega Man.
Pokemon or Zelda?
Pokemon. I was just watching Pokemon XY last night.
Fair enough. I just got back on that Brilliant Pearl, I think it is.
Okay.
Battlefield or PUBG?
Battlefield.
Comic-Con or E3?
E3.
Madden or 2K?
2K.
N64 or GameCube?
N64.
Hey, Fortnite or Apex?
I suck at Fortnite, so Apex.
Fair enough. Mario Kart or Mario Party?
Ooh, Mario Kart.
Hey, Switch or Steam Deck? What do you got there?
Switch.
God of War or Assassin's Creed?
Assassin's Creed. You got to go with Assassin's Creed.
We're learning about you. Horizon or Elden Ring?
I've never played both, but Elden Ring.
Hey, I like that. Brandon
Mhm.
Strong, MP4 or RPK?
RPK.
Favorite game of all time. Don't overthink it.
Batman Arkham Knight.
Ah,
Damn,
there it
I've
is.
heard that so many times.
Was not ready for that at
Great
all.
game.
Oh man, that was fantastic. Again, we really enjoyed our time with you. Thank you for carving out some space for us. And truly,
For
I learned
sure.
a ton. So we might need to have you back for our esports inside the esports pod because I got
I'll be
so
here.
many questions. We'll have him come on back, man. Thank you so much. Boyos, anything from y'all?
Oh man, we're gonna have to get your gamer tag on the side, bro. We appreciate you
we
doing
can
this.
play
Thanks
for
your time.
sure.
Yeah, come through. Until next time, this has been the No Randoms Podcast on the Comic Con Radio Network. We're out.
Peace.
No Randoms.